Ashay Gems. Welcome back to the Empress Empire podcast. I'm your host with the most, Ashanti, or the Sacred Empress. And today we are bringing on a new set of information today about the tarot and getting into the minor arcana. But before we get into the minor arcana, I want to do a little quiz. I'm going to quiz y'all and see what y'all know, see what y'all have learned so far with this series. So we can, build on that and just, go from there. And I got a few different questions in there about the minor arcana too. So just for fun. If you get them all right, great. If you get none right, great. You're still learning. All right. So we about to get into it. So the first question is, which card is ruled by Saturn? We got the Fool, the World, the Emperor, and Judgment. And I actually love this question and the answers that I put, because all these cards, you would think that Saturn rules all of these. But it's just one of them. Just one of them here.
It's the world.
Y'all let me know what y'all think. Oh, you said what?
The world.
Okay. Rob, what you thinking?
I think it's Judgment.
Okay. All right. Those that are listening off the air, whatever y'all have, lock in your answers. It's Family Feud. Could be like Steve Harvey, the world, and then it dings. It actually is the world. So yes, the world is ruled by Saturn. So we love that. We love that time. It's, delays. It's all of the above. And it's also completion of cycles as well. So moving forward to our next question. What does the Empress represent? A, insecurity. B, fear. C, empowerment. D, love. And when I put this, I didn't really think about how this could all, a lot of these answers usually kind of tie into all of the above, but I think that one answer specifically touches on all of these things. So we love that. But yeah, what are y'all thinking?
Is it empowerment?
C. Yeah, C.
Those off the air? Lock in your answers, guys. It is C. It is empowerment. So the Empress empowerment. That's the best way to look at it, is the first three letters of EMP. So keep that in mind. And what we'll do probably after the minor arcana is we'll kind of go over not necessarily each card, because that's gonna take a while, but I'll have y'all maybe like pick a few and we'll do like a little, like y'all can say what y'all think the card represents, because there could be many different things that these cards mean, but I think it's important to have at least one thing that you associate it with, so that like if you got a real quick card pull or something and somebody pulls that card for you, you can kind of, oh, okay, empowerment, and just go from there. So yeah, we love that. And it can mean the other things too, but it just depends. But empowerment will cover everything. So which card is number 12? Okay, so the numbers is going to be for the major arcana. But which card is 12? We got 2 of Pentacles, so that's, already know. We got B, the Fool, C, the Hanged Man, and D, the Chariot.
I feel like it's D.
Right.
Okay.
I was getting D as well.
All right. Answers are locked in. No final answers?
Yes.
All right. It is C. It is the Hanged Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that though. All right. So next we have the Court card that represents the child. We got the Queen, King, Page, and the Knight.
C.
Are y'all sure?
Final answer.
I'm gonna say the Knight just to say something different.
Sure? It's Page. It's C.
Okay.
I love doing that. I'm like, are you sure? even when y'all do have it right. All right, what are the correct suits? Pentacles, knives, candles, ribbons. B, coins, batons, swords, chalices. C, pentacles, cups, swords, wands. Or D, it may differ for each deck.
D.
Yeah.
Are y'all sure? No,
yeah.
It is D. It is definitely D. So next question, which card can represent travel? Got the Magician, the Fool, the Chariot, and the Two of Wands.
The Chariot. Yeah, the Chariot.
All right, y'all are on it. Y'all are on it. All right, and I think this is the last one. Which suit represents the air element? We got cups, swords, wands, and pentacles.
B, sword.
The wand. Yeah, the swords. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm going for C. I think C.
Okay. All right. Final answers. It is B. It is swords.
Damn it.
It's okay. Oh, I was like the last one. Just kidding. I think this was the last one. All right. Which card is Pisces? The Hanged Man, Strength, Eight of Swords, or the Moon?
Moon? The moon?
Or the hangman, whatever.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
the
gonna say the moon, water. I don't know.
Okay. All right. It is the moon. It's D. And it is. All right, y'all. So thank y'all for participating in the quiz. We're about to move on to the pinnacles. I probably should have put my cards out just so I can show y'all, but I'm sure I can go through and basically just say it, you know. So the pinnacles are going to be the earth element. I'm hearing myself. I don't know how I'm echoing.
Yeah, you're echoing on my end.
I'm like,
too.
I don't know how that's possible. But if y'all could just mute y'all's mics, that'd be great. Just so I can, I don't know what that was or why that was happening, but technology. We still in the Mercury retrograde shout out period. So, gotta give it to Mercury retrograde. She's out here still messing shit up. Um, but getting into the pinnacles, we got the ace, which is going to be 1 all the way down to the king. So with the Ace of Pentacles, basically pulling this card is going to represent new fortune, offers, financial freedom. All of the aces, period, are going to be blessings given to you in some capacity. And then if you're pulling multiple cards, you can kind of determine that based off of what the other cards say as well. So if you pull the Ace of Pentacles and get like the Chariot right after it, you could see that as like maybe a new home or a vacation or something like that. So next is the Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles is about balance, capabilities, strengths and weaknesses, patience and strategy. The biggest thing with the Two of Pentacles is balance. That's why it's the first thing that I put here, just because you're going to see that depicted in the card, where they're juggling something or something to that extent. Three of Pentacles is going to be collaboration, all hands on deck, teamwork. So really just building something, building some type of structure, building some type of business. Pinnacles are physical, so this is going to be things that are more tangible. So with the Three of Pentacles, you can kind of see it as building a store, building a brand, or building something. You're building something physical rather than it being like something mental or emotional. And usually with the Three of Pentacles, it's going to be with other people. So when y'all see that, y'all can kind of throw that out there and be like, maybe this is something that you're working on with other people. Or it could just mean it's going to take more than one person to help get things situated. So that could be a card where you're asking for help, or it's a card that reflects that you already have that help. Next is the Four of Pentacles. The Four of Pentacles is basically going to represent needing to let something go, being selfish, holding on to something that you don't necessarily need. The way I like to look at the cards when I do read them, especially with the different suits, is I go from 1 all the way down to the king, and I look at it as like a story, just how we did with the major arcana, where it represents the circle of life. The Ace of Pentacles are going to represent, or the Pentacles, I should say, are going to represent our financial, career, home life stuff. Most importantly, career finances. I think when we get into the cups, it's where we start to get more into our relationships with family, things like that. But with the Pentacles, this is going to represent our financial career path. So with the Four of Pentacles, it's basically going from, building something, creating something with the Three of Pentacles, maybe getting a good buzz. And then the Four of Pentacles is kind of, where you get in that frugal space. You're like, okay, well, I can't spend this much money. Or you do have the money and you're not putting it into the right places. You know what I'm saying? So it's really all about learning how to manage yourself a little bit better in that aspect, whether it be with your career path or with your money. Those will be the main things. But when you get into different readings like love, things like that, this could represent needing to let fears go, let insecurities go, things of that nature. So the theme changes when you move it into a different, position. So let's say you pull the Three of Pentacles for love, then it could mean something completely different than what's listed here. So just keep that in mind, but you can always apply these things to love readings, healing readings, or however you go about doing your readings, just because they'll still hold value, but you'll be able to interpret it and use your intuition with the rest of that. So next is the Five of Pentacles. The Five of Pentacles is going to represent struggle, asking for help, and optimism. So the Three of Pentacles is where you are in that fresh state, where you have this new idea you want to build, and then you ask for help. Five of Pentacles is where you're on your last. Okay, you ain't got nothing to your name, probably broke as hell, struggling. This is where we're struggling the most with the Five of Pentacles. Five is always going to represent blockages, things in the way, obstacles, challenges, so on and so forth. So keeping that in mind will really help y'all understand like what the cards represent, especially if y'all get to a place where you're like, okay, you see a card and you're like, oh, I don't know what that means. When you remember the numbers and know what the suit is representing, or the element that it represents, that will help y'all out a lot. So just keep those things in mind. Next is the Six of Pentacles. So the Six of Pentacles will represent reciprocity, sharing the wealth, being rewarded. So we go from being, in that place where we're naked and dead and really ain't got nothing to our names, to being in a space where we're fruitful and we're able to give. So you can see even in these, different cards, how we go from one place to the next place, so it's going to represent different changes and occurrences as you do look through the different suits individually. So next is the Seven of Pentacles. Seven of Pentacles is basically going to represent having to be patient because things take time. I always use this card as like my planting seed card. Like every time I see it, like somebody done planted some seeds somewhere and these seeds are growing, but they maybe need to be nurtured. They may need, other things to, help him, come into fruition. So with the Seven of Pentacles, this is where you could still be in a fruitful place, but you're still waiting on something, or there's still more that you want. So Seven of Pentacles is one of those cards where you're going to have to be patient, trust the process, and not necessarily rush where you're at. So you could see that you could take the Seven of Pentacles as like a slow down card, or even seeing it as you're on the right track. So next is the Eight of Pentacles. Eight of Pentacles is going to represent hard work and dedication, and also falling into your craft. So with the Eight of Pentacles, this is where you'll see a man basically in the Rider-Waite, where he's holding like a little hammer or something, and he's kind of like hitting a coin or pinnacle. And that's basically going to represent working towards something, building something, creating something. But this is something that, you enjoy, something that brings value to you. And the more you put into that, the more you get back. So I always see Eight of Pentacles as like a consistency card. It represents consistency with your craft. And with consistency comes rewards. So next is the Nine of Pentacles, where, I think in the Rider-Waite, because I'm thinking of the Golden Girls, where she's like sitting back in her little lawn chair and she's holding her, oh, I thought that was my deck right there. I was like, oh, it's right here. Just kidding. But she's like holding her little cup and she's just chilling in her little lawn chair. But in the Rider-Waite, it's basically depicted as someone standing by a garden. So, garden is going to represent being fruitful. And, she's just standing there. She got like a little bird beside her or something like that. So that is going to showcase elegance. It's going to showcase that, you're abundant, you're in your abundance, and not necessarily chasing it or trying to hold on to something else to receive it. You're just living in it. You're standing in it. And then with that, once you're abundant in yourself, you get to pass that abundance on to other people, which is where we have the Ten of Pentacles, which is going to represent that generational wealth, the generational stability, miracles, oneness, things like that. So with the Ten of Pentacles, that's where we'll start to see like, okay, for some people, they're working towards that. Like I did a reading for someone last night and I saw that in their reading and I let them know, like, I can see this is what you want. Cause I think I did a career reading for them and I was telling them like, okay, I can see like, this is what you're trying to build for yourself. You're trying to build generational wealth. You don't want your family to suffer, So that is my card that depicts that. And then we get into the different, oh my gosh, what is it called? The different court cards. So we got the Page, Knight, Queen, and King. So with these different individuals, these are different individuals that are going through the Ace to the 10. Does that make sense? So with the court cards, they're going through these numbers. So Page is starting out. Knight has started too, but they're taking more action. Queen has, achieved these things already, just in a more nurturing space. More evolved in that space, and the same thing with the King as well. King is just more of the master of everything. Like the King be like, okay, here's the instructions to be abundant, whereas the Queen is kind of like supporting and wants you to figure it out yourself, get the hang of it for yourself. So with the Page of Pentacles, the Page of Pentacles is, brand new ideas. So let's use a business, for example. The Page wants to start a business. The Page isn't really sure where to start. They're not sure what to do. Should I go ahead and get their LLC? Should I go ahead and get their different number? Like, they don't know what to do. So this is where you start to watch videos, read books, educate yourself. That's going to be the Page. Whereas the Knight is, now we're acting on it. Now we're doing it. Now I'm building a website. Now I'm going to get my business registered, and so on and so forth. So that'll be the Knight, where you're actually taking it all on as your responsibility. Whereas the Queen has already done these things. The Queen is still maintaining it, and still doing her thing. And then you got the King doing the same thing, but the King is now on stage teaching and showing people how to do it. The Queen could too. I just think the Queen is more like, she's hands-on with everything. The King is going to sit back and watch, whereas the Queen's like, okay, this is what you do next. I'm gonna show you how to do this. And she'll kind of be more of a teacher in the sense of, the nurturing aspect. And then the King is going to just be like, these are the instructions. Here it is, all in fine detail. So do you guys understand the Pentacles? Do you guys have any questions about the Pentacles or anything?
I don't have a question about the pentacles, but like a general question about like reverse
Mhm.
meaning. That's my biggest challenge. Like when stuff comes out, like does it always mean that it's like the opposite of that, or could it mean something else?
Yeah, I think with the oh my gosh, is it my headphones? But with the reversed meanings, I will do like a class on that too, so that way I can help you guys out with that too. That's one thing that I didn't really struggle with, but still had some issues with. So I'll try to find different ways to make it easy for you guys to learn how to read reversals. But it does depend, honestly, because the question matters, the surrounding cards matter. But 9 times out of 10, it can mean the reversed meaning. But some reversals are not necessarily bad. Like if you get the no, I wouldn't say the 10 of swords. If you get the 8 of swords reversed, that's a good card. It's a good way to get that card. So it's not always negative. Sometimes it just means there could be blockages in that aspect, hard time getting to that point, or delays, things like that. So I would say to look at it that way to start off, because it'll be easier to look at it that way, where it's as like a blockage, instead of looking at it as like, oh, well, what's the opposite of this? Just see it as a blockage, to start out. And then when we do get into, reading more and doing more of those activities, I'll find different ways to help you guys interpret the reversals as well. But yeah, did anyone else have any questions? We good to move on? All right, that's what we'll do. All right, so next is the sword. Now I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The swords are probably the most depressing suit out of the entire tarot, just because it's the mind. Okay, so with our minds, we go through things. We overthink, we have anxiety, mental illness. So many different things take place in our mind. So with this specific suit, you're going to see that. You're going to see the main themes that we all go through with our mental state. So as I read these, you'll probably be able to recognize like, oh shit, like this.
And not only that, but I feel like the way the cards look too, the people look depressed.
Yeah.
So you could straight tell, I feel like when it's like a good card, like a happy card, or like,
Right.
The swords, just people just look depressed.
Yeah, especially the 9 of swords. That's always like my
The worst.
depression. Yes, I'm like, oh my gosh. I think somebody had got that card yesterday. I did a reading, and I was like, you are going through it. And they're like,
Oh,
yeah, I'm
damn.
having a hard time. And I'm like, God, I know. I'm gonna give you a little energy hug.
A little air hug.
Yeah, because the swords, like I said, they're going to represent our mind. The pentacles are going to represent our physical form, our bodies, our home life, everything else. The swords are our head up in here. What's going on in the third eye? So with the ace is going to be one. Obviously, like I said, it's going to be the blessing coming in. And for a lot of people do not like the Ace of Swords, because the Ace of Swords is bringing that truth. And a lot of people are not ready for the truth. A lot of people are not ready to process it, or a lot of people have a hard time processing it. So the Ace comes through to provide that clarity. So if you are wondering or inquiring about a partner, or, something of the sort, if this card comes out, then there's some smoke and mirrors. You know what I'm saying? There's something that isn't really come to the surface yet. So you're coming to that space where you're going to get more information about it. So with that, you could also see the Ace as a thought, because when we think about how our minds evolve, We start with thoughts, we start with our thoughts first. These are our ideas, I guess I should say, but same thing. They're going to come in the same place. So 2 is meditation. Being able to be still. That is something that we struggle with, especially this day and age where everything is fast paced, everything is moving fast. We have a hard time being still. We have a hard time with patience. So the 2 of swords is where we're meditating. We're getting grounded in ourselves. And usually this card is going to depict 2 swords like across from each other. And someone's usually blindfolded in the card. But like I said, in the different decks, it'll depend. It looks different. But with the 2 of swords, this is where you're going to have to make a decision. You're choosing between something. It's kind of like having to eat like red pill, blue pill. If you've ever seen The Matrix, it's like kind of choosing the red pill or you're choosing the blue pill. You're going to be ignorant or you're going to face the harsh reality. So that's how I would look at the 2 of, not the 2 of Pentacles, but the 2 of Swords. 3 of Swords, however, is what happens after you accept the truth, because after the 2 of Swords, we're only going to go up from there, so with that, when you finally accept the truth, it's a little hard, it's a little difficult to process. So we start to feel things, we start to get upset, we start to get frustrated because things are completely different than we had imagined, or kind of like with Neo in The Matrix, when he had his awakening. He was throwing up. He was ready to go back. Like he was going through it. Neo was going through it. So that'll be the 3 of Swords. And for a lot of us that are spiritual, when we, decide to even get within, the spiritual practices or take this path, we go through some things and we have our awakenings. And sometimes those things are hard because we go through the dark night of the soul and, things like that. But this is just the beginning. This is the initial, like, oh, like the harsh reality has hit me. I don't even know how to feel, but I'm feeling things. So next we got the 4 of Swords. This is where we have to learn to rest our minds. So usually this will be depicted with somebody resting or doing something to, create peace, balance. So the 4 of, I keep saying Pentacles, I don't know why, but the 4 of Swords is basically going to represent having to rest. So when you get some information, just like if someone tells you that someone that you love is no longer here, you kind of have to sit with that. You don't just be like, oh, well, I'm gonna go to work. Like sometimes you have to be like, okay, like I'm gonna have to call out. Like, I don't think I can go in. I don't think I can go to school. There are days I missed a week when my great grandma died when I was like in the 5th grade. So it's one of those things, like when you get that shocking news that's gonna put you in that place where you're very emotional, you're gonna have to rest. So even looking at this too, now that I'm thinking about it, the swords is kind of a guide to how to process, certain things mentally, because it's all a cycle. And that's what these suits are going to represent. They're going to represent the cycle in these specific areas, because we're going to keep going through these different swords and these different events in our lives. But this will help us better grasp it. Rather than doing the wrong thing and now you just in the 10 of Swords for the rest of your life and you don't want to be, but you got to break out that cycle somehow. So after that is the 5 of Swords. 5 of Swords is when those emotions are at an all-time high, things are said, things are done, and sometimes there's no thought with it. It's just kind of, I'm doing this impulsively. So with the 5 of Swords, you really want to be careful because this card can represent fights. It can represent arguments. It can represent so many different things. And a lot of times people see it as like occurrences with other people, but sometimes it's internal. Sometimes it's, oh, I'm beating myself up. Or sometimes it's, I'm saying negative things to myself in the mirror. So that's where we have to be careful because it could really vary based on the circumstances or the question that is being asked. So I always stress, I'm gonna stress that to y'all every single time. The cards that you pull with whatever card you're pulling or question, they're gonna matter too. So we're gonna learn, I'm gonna teach y'all how to read them as like a all together, I guess I should say. So that way it's easier for y'all to interpret in the future. So next is the 6 of Swords. So 6 of Swords, everything's died down. We're in a better place. Things are making sense now. We're kind of finally in a place of acceptance, can't do anything to control the situation. I just have to let it be. And then all hell breaks loose again. We're like, okay, things are good now. Woo, I'm in a good space. And then 7 of Swords comes up. But the 7 of Swords, people see this as like a super bad card, but I always see it as having to just release things that don't serve you. So some people will see it as sneaky, you being shysty, you doing this. But sometimes it's realizing like, okay, I want change and these things are holding me back. So I have to release these things. So I stopped looking at it as a negative card because it was kind of a stigma that was placed on it when I started reading tarot. And as I started to read more and, get my own knowledge, I realized that this card is not that bad. Like, if anything, this is the card that is going to push you, to be better, because it's like, okay, you don't want to stay in this space. So change something, do something different. So I think the only reason why this card is toxic is because a lot of people don't want to make the changes that are necessary. They rather stay in their toxicity rather than do something about it. So the Seven of Swords is really just, I'm going to make better decisions. I'm going to cut this out. It doesn't hold any space in my life. I'm going to do this instead. But even with doing that, we got the Eight of Swords. So Eight of Swords is going to represent where we're in our heads the most, because, we're questioning everything. So it's kind of like, let's say you cut off a friend with the Seven of Swords. Eight of Swords is kind of like, I done messed up. I cut off the wrong friend. I miss them. I want to be around them. Like, you get into your head and you're like, I don't even know what's what anymore. And then you have to go back into that mode where you're reflecting and, you're getting more insight about your circumstances rather than just kind of letting your mind dictate what's really the truth. So with the Eight of Swords, this is where I always recommend people go get help, talk to somebody, you know what I'm saying, or do something of the sort. So that way it's not, oh God. But that way it's not you just trying to, sabotage what you got going on, because I know for me, when I get in relationships, I always overthink. I'm like, oh, they don't like me. They didn't text me back in 5 seconds. They don't like me. And then I'm like, girl, they have a life. So that Eight of Swords is kind of like, okay, face reality. You got this blindfold on. You need to look at what's real and what's fact rather than what you're trying to make up in your head. So Eight of Wands is being in your head for the most part. Next is the Nine of Swords. So with being in your head, for a lot of us, I think the biggest issue is that we don't allow our thoughts to be put outward. They're just kind of here and they just bouncing from wall to wall. Nine of Swords is where we just can't take it no more. And it's getting overwhelming. And now we realize, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this, which is where the Ten of Swords comes in. And the Ten of Swords is going to represent that abrupt change. It's going to represent, okay, no longer doing this anymore, taking this out, whatever it is. That's where we just kind of throw in the towel altogether, and basically just kind of accepting our fate. Just kind of like, okay, like, I know this is not helping me. I know this is hurting me. So I'm just going to leave it alone. Because like between the 7 and the 10, that's where I know for me, like when I'm vegan, so I'll have my days where I'm like, I want meat. That's the in between the 7 and the 10. It's like, I'm making this decision to stay away from meat, stay away from dairy, animal products. And then I have that urge. The Eight of Swords comes up and it's like, well, what if you need meat? What if you need it for your body? What if you need it for your protein? What if, blah, blah, blah. So it'll be those types of thoughts coming in that are going to be the Eight of Swords. And then the Nine of Swords is where I'm like, I don't even know what to do now, because I got somebody over here telling me that if I eat meat, I'm gonna die. Or if somebody over here telling me if I don't eat meat, I'm gonna die. So I don't know what to do. So with the Ten of Swords, it's kind of where you have to take matters into your own hands. And then we go back to the Ace of Swords, because the Ace of Swords is giving us that clarity, the truth. You did the right thing, or maybe you should be doing that. Maybe your diet is gonna need more of this or more of that. So it's a cycle. It's gonna be the same cycle. This could be for relationships, it could be for career, it could be for anything. Swords, like I said, are going to represent your mind's experience. So Page through the King, I've already let y'all know that with the Page, these are people that are experiencing it. They're going through these cycles. So with the Page of Swords is basically going to represent somebody that, it's kind of like a baby, in that sense. Like if I want to say any of these court cards as an actual baby, it's going to be the Page. Just because with the Page of Swords, this is our minds, and children's minds take a lot of time to develop. And not that much time, because like they're very smart, they catch on very fast. But with the Page, that's what it's going to represent. It's going to represent like a baby, going into child, into teen, into so on and so forth. So that's where our mind is the most active. With the Page of Swords, we're learning, we're expanding our knowledge on something, doing more, reading and writing, things like that. With the Page, the Knight of Swords is more, okay, I know what tools and resources I have. Let me use them, and try to figure out what works, what doesn't for me. So like you could use therapy for an example. A Page isn't going to necessarily go to therapy, because a Page is trying to figure out if they even need it. Whereas the Knight is like, okay, maybe I do need therapy. Let me try it out. The Knight tries it out because he knows, okay, this is a tool. This is a resource. I'm gonna use it. If it doesn't work, I don't have to keep using it. And then they can find something else, do yoga, do, exercising or whatever. So the Knight is going to be more experimental. And then the Queen of Swords, is somebody that has gone through all these things and they know exactly how to curb those cards that we don't really want to see in our spread, you know? So the Queen of Swords knows exactly how to deal with the Nine of Swords. So when she gets in that space of being super negative, she knows how to get out of that quicker, because her and the King have mastered this. They've mastered their mind. The Queen is very righteous. So the Queen is going to be very big about the truth. Same thing with the King. They're very big on the truth. So the King and the Queen, truth matters to them more than anything, because that's the struggle here with the swords, is that you're fighting between the truth and the lie. So these are individuals that have already mastered it. They don't really have to, pick around the truth, because they know what the truth is and they stand on that. Whereas the Page and the Knight, they're still figuring that out. They're still trying to figure out what the truth looks like to them. So the swords could be the truth or the mind, however you want to interpret that. But it could be a little bit of both, honestly. So any questions about the swords? All right, we're gonna move on. I think the wands is next, I think.
I don't have a question. I just had somebody made a interesting comment about the Five of Swords online before. And they were saying like the three figures is like the fight, flight, or freeze response, like when we're in conflict.
Yeah.
And the first person holding the sword is like fight. The first person, the other one is the one in the far distance is fleeing, and then the one in the middle is like frozen. Because like that's the right weight image, and now I'm looking at it differently. Like how you respond to conflict, when I'm doing readings.
Yeah, I actually love that interpretation. It makes sense because it's gonna represent conflict, so it's cool. I actually like that. I actually love that interpretation. It makes sense. It's gonna represent cool. I actually love that. All right, so we're gonna move forward to the wands. So the wands, I love the wands. The wands are so fun. Okay, the wands is probably the most playful suit out of the tarot deck, just because it's less of what we just seen. It's like we just went through a dark tunnel with the swords, and now the sun, not the sun. I mean, it would make sense with the sun, Leo sun. Anyways, but with the wands, this is more of the light at the end of the tunnel. So starting us off, we got the Ace of Wands. I'm gonna keep stressing these things to y'all because I want y'all to remember I love I love to repeat myself when it comes to teaching, because I know that people will get it in their heads, like, okay, girl, I know. But then like when we have a quiz or something, they'll be like, oh yes, I know what this is because she kept saying it. So with the aces, these are going to represent blessings. This is something being given to you, because as y'all can see, usually it's going to be a hand wrapped around or holding whatever it is. So with the Ace of Wands, it's a spirit providing you with a new path to pursue a project or pursue, any creative idea that you have. The wands are more playful because they're fire. Fire's passion. So this is where you get to, just kind of exercise that with this suit. The Two of Wands is going to basically be where you're at, basically just choosing like, okay, do I want to go this path or do I want to go down that path? Because with the Ace of Wands, you could have a lot of ideas. You could have like 1,000 ideas, but how can we get those 1,000 ideas down to one specific thing? So me, for example, with my business, I want to do tarot readings. I want to do Akashic record readings. I want to do past life readings. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do Reiki. So how can I create a space where I can do all those things without it being, I'm doing them all separately. I got to make different websites for each thing, right? So I created my business to where I can do all these things, and it's not, oh, you got to go to this website for Reiki. You got to go to this website for Akashic Records. It's all in one place. So figuring out how to better manage whatever it is that you do have ideas for, because there could be somebody that wants to do music, wants to do, I remember somebody was talking about their daughter earlier. It's like, how can we cultivate a space where all of these things are inclusive, so that way it's not always this like, having to figure it out or, make time for things or have a schedule. So the Two of Wands are going to basically represent planning, organizing, getting things in a space where it, flows better. So the Three of Wands is where you made up your mind, you know what you want, and you got that tunnel vision. And I just said like light at the end of the tunnel, but this is kind of where you have that tunnel vision as far as like, your path, your dreams, aspirations, goals, all of that, just kind of only focusing on that because now what you want. Four of Wands, is where you come in contact with people or things, because it doesn't always have to be people, but people or things that will help you through this path. So like when people start their spiritual journey, some people align with their soul tribe, some people align with, their twin flame or their soulmate or so on and so forth. So when you reach a specific part of your path, new people are coming in to help you get through that cycle. So that's what the Four of Wands is going to represent, being with, soulmates or soul family, things like that. That's what the Four of Wands is going to entail. Five of Wands is where we start to get a little, tension built up, just because, like I said, the fives are going to always represent some type of struggle, but it doesn't have to be bad. It's just, with tarot too, it shows you how to work through those tensions and those blockages. So with the Five of Wands, this is where you start to see like some, creative differences, especially if you're working within a group. We just got out of the Four of Wands. So within these, these paths and these relationships, things may be different. You may have a different view of somebody. You may want the same thing as somebody, but going about it a completely different way. So it's where we start to see some friction, whether it be in the relationships around us or just internal. So the Five of Wands is usually going to be internal or external, just because it could be both, but it doesn't have to be one specific thing, because some people would think like Five of Wands is like, oh, you're against people or people are jealous of you, but sometimes it's something within you that's blocking you, stopping you. This could be creator's block, writer's block, so on and so forth. So I know for me, recently I was trying to figure out what I wanted to paint, because I had this canvas, I bought this canvas and I had it for over a month and I never did anything with it. And then last night or this morning, because it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, I was like, I'm just going to paint something. So that's how we get out of that block. We just do it, right? And that's why the Six of Wands comes next, because the Six of Wands is where we've, been putting in the work and we're getting the recognition that we deserve. People see what we're doing because we're staying consistent. People see that we're showing up every day for what we love. So people are giving us the attention that we deserve in that aspect. So next, the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands is going to be setting, your boundaries. Because with the Six of Wands, I always see this as like the famous card. Just because, like I keep taking to my Golden Girls deck, but she's holding like this little award. She's got her hand out like that. And that's basically what that's going to represent: getting awards, getting accolades, being represented, being seen, being heard, being validated for your passions, right? Since the wands are going to be passions. So with that, this is where, you're giving more attention to your craft. You're giving more attention to the things that you love. So it's going to reward you back. And with that, it's going to come a little bit of something, because, when you get in a place where you're building something, you're building a name for yourself, people going to come in and try to be your friend. People going to come in and try to use you for what you got. So the Seven of Wands is kind of like that card that's like, hey, set some boundaries, because people are going to try to overstep. People are going to try to act like they know they place in your life when they don't. Well, like some people, like I remember, I think it was a basketball player whose dad tried to be in his life after he made it to the NBA. And at that point, I was like, no, I don't even claim you as my dad. Like, get on somewhere. But that's what the Seven of Wands is preparing you for. It's teaching you to, set a foundation and just make sure that you're protecting yourself, because people will try to come in and have the wrong intentions, especially if you got a name for yourself, if you got money or you got a lot of followers or so on and so forth. Which I don't get, but that's the world we live in today. So, just gotta go with the flow. Next is the Eight of Wands, though. Eight of Wands is going to be communication. I always see this as prayer in a sense, like kind of, manifesting, communicating with spirit, letting them know what it is that you want, what it is that you're looking forward to, things of that nature. So that one's just simple, because I always see this as like, putting your intentions out there and allowing them to come back to you, because Eight is always going to represent karma, no matter what the suit is. It's going to represent karma, because it's Scorpio, Eight is Scorpio. So just keep that in mind. Next is the Nine of Wands. So with the Nine of Wands, this is where we're a little too like overprotective. Like sometimes when we get in our creative spaces, we don't want to share certain things, or we do want to share certain things, but we're scared how people are going to view it, or what people are going to say. So with the Nine of Wands is where we start to get very defensive, because with fame, since we started with the Six, with the fame, when we get the fame, some people are mean just because, you got a name that you're probably not going to see their comment, but they might see it. So with the Nine of Wands, that's where people start to get very like, oh, I don't want to share because every time I share, people do this or people do that. That's where we have to, basically remind ourselves like, hey, we don't have to worry about what people think. We don't have to worry about what people feel about us, because we made it this far without them, without those negative comments. So we don't necessarily need them to keep going, right? So that's where we have the Ten of Wands, which is bag lady, let it go, which is what I basically just insinuated. So we go from a place where we're kind of letting things affect us because, we made it to a specific point, but, other challenges are coming into play and we have to learn how to manage those, how to balance and go with the flow in that aspect. But the Ten of Wands is like, let it go. If it isn't helping you, let it go. And then going from there, we got the Page, the Knight, the Queen, and the King, which are basically the individuals going through these cycles. And the Page and the Knight are both going to represent taking a leap of faith. Page on one end is like, let's say if you want to be an artist, you may go to art school. So that would be more of the Page's energy, like maybe taking, a class for sculpting or taking a class for music or something of the sort. This is where you're putting more of your time and energy into your craft. And then the Knight is where we're doing it. So Knight is going to be, okay, I went to art school. I'm going to start making art. I'm going to start putting my art on t-shirts. I'm going to start selling my art. That's going to be the Knight. Queen is basically like an A-list celebrity, if we're going to look at it in the fame aspect. Queen and King, A-list celebrities. They are well known. Everybody knows them. Everybody loves them. But with the Queen is true and authentic. She knows herself. She's not necessarily this stuck-up person. Like, she's her true authentic self. And then the King is more of this passionate, individual. The King of Wands always gives me like Michael Jackson vibes. So if y'all want to associate any of the court cards with people, that may be something that can help you guys remember like what they may represent. But I just know that, Michael Jackson is literally, he was the Page, he was the Knight, and he worked his way up to be the king of pop. I feel like he should be just the king of music, period. But yeah, with the King of Wands is definitely somebody that, they really put all their time and energy into their craft. This is somebody that does not go to sleep at all until work's done for the day, or their job's done for the day, or their career. I wouldn't even say career, but their craft. Like, they got to work on their craft. Like, if you're making a song, the King of Wands is gonna stay up and finish the song until it's perfect. So King of Wands isn't necessarily a earth sign, but I would definitely associate it with Virgo, which is why I associate it with Michael Jackson. But yes, next, moving forward. This is the last slide, you guys. Last slide for the night. So we got, hold on. So we got the cups here. Now we got Ace, which is, I'm not even gonna say it because I feel like y'all know now. But obviously blessings coming through, fresh feelings, compassion, new relationships, love, and fertility. So with the cups are going to represent the emotions, the intimate exchanges, relationships, our feelings, emotion, like everything. It's going to cover all of the emotional aspects of our life. Two of Wands, what the hell? Two of Cups is going to be spiritual connections, harmony, balance, mutual feelings, and respect. So these are two people that are holding cups. Now, I don't know if the cups are full or if they're empty, but that's where things get tricky. And even in real life, you never know whose cup's full and whose cup's empty. You just know that your cup is either full or empty. So you meet someone and now they need this from you. Now they need that from you. So the Two of Cups is very tricky because a lot of people think that the Two of Cups is going to represent, this is the love of my life with the Two of Cups. But is that person's cup full? Are they able to pour into you the way that you pour into them? Do you even have to pour into them? You know what I'm saying? Is there something else that y'all could do with y'all's connection? So with the Two of Cups, I personally don't always associate this with love just because I feel like it can mean so many other things. It could be a friend, you know what I'm saying? It could be somebody coming into your life, teaching you how to balance your whatever, just depending on what we're reading. But Three of Cups is celebration, friendship, soul groups, indulgence, and bad company. I only put bad company in here because three's a crowd sometimes, especially if everybody's cups are empty and you're the only one with a full cup. Guess what? they're going to want your cup. They're going to want to they're going to want you to pour your cup into their cup. So that is where things get tricky, because you start to see how people will use you in that sense. So got to be careful. Four of Cups is paying attention, contemplating, reevaluating, discontent, and awakening. So with the Four of Cups, this is where we kind of have to take matters into our own hands, do our own reflecting, and meditate and all that stuff, really clear in our headspace. Five of Cups is loss, grief, inner strength, and regenerating ourselves. So we're just talking about how people can take our cups from us, basically. So Five of Cups is where you're like, girl, you ain't taking my cup? I'm going to cut you off. Now what? Fill your own cup. So with that, that's where we may have to lose friends. We have to maybe lose lovers or whatever the case may be, because we were used, or, something could happen in the midst of all that. But it really just depends. The Six of Cups is inner child, our past, chemistry, reminiscing, and nostalgia. So this is kind of where we're in that dream state. Not really dream state, but we're just kind of remembering, looking back on something, you know what I'm saying? Letting the past be the past. We got 7 here, which is the more of the dream state, but also just kind of just the different possibilities, thinking of all the different things that could happen, or where things could go, where we could go, and then getting into that. Next is 8 of Cups, which is having to walk away from something entirely. So something that could have brought you an emotional, I don't even know, put you in a really uncomfortable spot. You'll have to just walk away altogether rather than trying to give it a chance. Like the Seven of Pentacles, not the Seven of, why do I keep saying Pentacles? The Seven of Cups could basically be you in that space where you're like, let's say you just got out of an abusive relationship. You're like, oh, well, they gave me flowers and they did that. That's the Seven of Cups. It's like, okay, yes, they did all these things, but they still hurt you, So that's where you have to be like, okay, like I got to walk away now with the 8 of Cups. And then we got the 9 of Cups. The 9 of Cups is where we are more in an emotional stable space, because when we remove things, we make room for whatever is good for us, right? What's meant for us. So now we're aligned with that. Now we're aligning with, our blessings and, really feeling more content. This is where you'll start to feel more happier after all of these losses. 10 of Cups is pure happiness, joy, fulfillment. No more isolation, because now we're surrounded by people that also exude this energy. So from the Page to the King, Page and the Knight are understanding their emotions. Honestly, that's the best way to put it. Now the Page, the only difference with the Page and the Knight is the Page is very they have so many different ideas. They have so many different things that they want to do. So this is where we start to get creative with the Page. And then the Knight is more like, I'm doing this from the heart. Everything I do, I'm doing it from the heart. I'm doing it, because I love it, or I'm doing it because it makes me happy, so on and so forth. So the Knight's just kind of chasing that feeling, whereas the Page is thinking of things that would make them feel that way. And then the Queen is someone that I kind of look at as like the mother. Like this is the pure nurturer out of the different queens. She's going to nurture you. She's going to understand where you're coming from. She's going to listen to you. The King is going to teach you how to regulate your emotions. The Queen is going to understand that you're emotional, understand that you're sad, and understand that something's bothering you. She's going to help you get through that. The King is going to tell you, okay, be emotional, but know that you can't be emotional forever. So this is kind of not necessarily the most harsh approach, but just the approach that's more logical, because the queen's going to take the more, nurturing route to all the different suits, whereas the King is going to take the more logical route. Like, okay, this is what it is. They did this to you. They hurt you. Are you going to keep crying over them? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to keep wishing they come back? Like the King is going to tell you how it is. Whereas the Queen is just going to, walk you through it, because the Queen knows that it's going to take time. The King, on the other hand, is like, I mastered this and you can too. The King just believes in you, but can be a little harsh sometimes. Just a little bit, just tiny, a little smidge. But that is not the major. Look at me, I'm saying everything completely backwards today. It's opposite day, guys. But that is the minor arcana. I think next week we'll be getting into reading for yourself, and I think the psychic abilities too. Let me see. Oh, yep. Psychic abilities. for next week. So I hope to see you guys in attendance so you guys can learn more about your own personal psychic abilities and figure out where your strong suits are, where your weaknesses are, so that we can work on them, create more activities for y'all so y'all can strengthen y'all's weaknesses and expand on your strengths. So thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all have any questions, feel free to message me in the group chat. I'll make sure to reach out and help y'all with anything y'all need help with. When this finishes downloading, I'll save it and I'll send it to y'all so that way y'all can watch it if y'all need to go over the slides or anything like that. Love you all. Don't forget to hydrate, meditate, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Thanks.